The night sky over Earth's northern hemisphere shimmered with quiet beauty. At the Deep Space Research Station called Orion Outpost 9, a single monitor began to blink. Dr. Evelyn Cross leaned closer, her tired eyes focusing on the strange rhythm across the screen. It wasn't random static or cosmic noise, it pulsed like a heartbeat. Soft. "Steady, alive?" she called to her assistant. "Run the pattern check again." And the young man obeyed without question. Across the dark control room, lights glowed pale blue as machines hummed softly. Outside, the station floated above the planet like a lonely star. No one there expected to find anything unusual that night, but destiny often hides behind silence, waiting to be heard. When the decoding program finished, a word appeared on the screen, Luma. Evelyn froze, her breath caught in her throat. She had heard that name once before. In stories told among explorers and scientists, Luma, the alien mini-girl, the being of light who once saved humanity from a galactic war. Many believed she was only a legend, a tale told to give people hope during the dark years, yet here was proof. Glowing in golden letters across her monitor, she whispered, "This can't be possible." But the signal kept repeating, stronger each time. The rhythm matched no known transmission code. No human satellite, no alien beacon. It seemed to come from beyond the outer rim, a place where no one had ever returned from. Outside the window, the stars flickered like eyes watching her discovery. Within hours, the news reached the Galactic Science Council. Meetings were called, ships prepared, and whispers spread through every colony. Could Luma still be alive, some asked. Or is something pretending to be her, others warned. No one knew, but curiosity burns brighter than fear. And soon a new mission was born. Captain Mira Solon, an explorer known for courage and calm, was chosen to lead the team. Her ship, the Horizon Star, had crossed black holes and nebula storms before, but this journey would take her farther than any human had gone. As she read the mission file, she paused at the image of the signal. The pattern looked almost like wings made of light. She smiled faintly and said, "All right, Luma. Let's see what secret you're keeping." The crew prepared supplies. Drones and scanners designed to follow faint energy trails. Each of them felt the strange pull of the mystery. They didn't know if they were chasing a myth or answering a call for help. Either way, they couldn't turn back. When the Horizon Star left orbit, the engines shimmered like liquid fire. The blue planet faded behind them, replaced by endless darkness inside the command deck. Screens displayed the coordinates of the signal. It came from a region of space called the Silent Belt, where sensors failed and ships vanished. Even Mira felt a chill as she whispered, "Let's hope we don't join them." Days turned into nights that never ended. The crew saw strange flashes outside, shapes that looked like shadows moving among stars. They heard faint humming through the walls, like music made of whispers. One engineer swore he saw a small glowing figure watching them through the viewport. But when he blinked, it was gone. Leaving only a trail of silver dust, Mira kept calm. Recording every event carefully, she noticed that the closer they got to the signal, the stronger the ship's lights flickered. It was as if something alive was responding to their presence. Then, on the 7th day, the main sensor lit up in a burst of blue. The signal had changed. It was no longer random. It was a voice, soft, distant, almost like a child speaking through wind. "Help! The light is fading," it said. Every person on board froze, listening to the impossible sound. Mira leaned forward, her heartbeat matching the rhythm of the message. She whispered, "Luma, is that you?" the voice repeated, this time clearer. "Find the world where stars sleep." And then the transmission cut off. The crew stared at one another, unsure if they had heard it right. Evelyn Cross, watching from her station back on Earth, received the same signal and confirmed the voice. It was identical to the audio files of the legend. The same tone, the same harmony. Silence filled space once again. The Horizon Star drifted quietly as if the universe itself held its breath. Then Mira stood tall, eyes fixed on the coordinates that appeared beside the final words. "A planet hidden behind a collapsing nebula unseen by any telescope," she ordered. "Set course immediately." Engines roared, stars stretched into streams of light. And as the ship vanished into hyperspace, one last faint echo followed them. A whisper across the void, gentle, hopeful, eternal. "Come find me," it said. And with that, the true journey into the secrets of the alien mini-girl began. The engines of the Horizon Star glowed like twin suns against the dark sea of space. Inside the command deck, Captain Mira Solon watched the endless stars stretch into long, shining rivers. The hum of hyperspace filled the air, low and steady, like the heartbeat of the universe itself. Every crew member felt it, the strange tension between fear and wonder. They were traveling beyond known charts, chasing a ghost from a legend. Mira stood tall, hands folded behind her back, eyes locked on the main screen. Her reflection shimmered faintly on the glass, mixed with the swirl of cosmic colors outside. She had led many missions, but none felt like this. None felt alive. Each pulse from the mysterious signal made the walls tremble slightly. It was as if something beyond the stars was guiding them forward. Lieutenant Kai, her communication officer, adjusted the signal tracker again. "Captain," he said quietly. "The frequency keeps changing. It almost feels emotional." Mira raised an eyebrow. "Emotional," she repeated. Kai nodded. "Yes, like it reacts when we respond. Almost like a heartbeat syncing with ours." The thought sent a soft chill through the room. Down in the engineering bay, a young technician named Lyra examined the ship's energy core. She noticed strange patterns dancing across the monitors, shapes like wings made of light. When she touched the glass, the shapes pulsed brighter, then faded. She whispered, "Is that you?" "Luma," her voice barely audible. The core glowed faintly in answer, as if breathing. Meanwhile, the ship drifted through the edge of the silent belt, a region feared by all spacefarers. A graveyard of lost vessels and broken dreams here. Light bent strangely, and signals vanished like whispers into fog. The crew grew uneasy, feeling watched even though no one was there. Outside, fragments of old ships floated silently. Reminders of those who never returned. Mira ordered everyone to stay focused. Her voice calm, her eyes sharp, but deep down, even she felt the weight of the silence. They slowed the ship, switching to manual navigation. The nebula ahead glowed with faint golden mist, swirling like smoke from a sleeping fire. And from its heart the signal grew louder, clearer, almost singing. The voice returned, soft, distant, innocent. "Follow the light that remembers," it said. Kai's hands trembled over the controls. "Captain, that voice, it's definitely not a recording." Mira leaned forward, her breath shallow. "Then someone is still sending it." Lyra's voice crackled through the comm. "Captain, energy spikes rising. Something's pulling us in." The ship shuddered, alarms flashing red across every screen. Gravity waves twisted space around them, stretching stars into spirals. Mira shouted, "Stabilizers to full power. Hold your course." The crew struggled, fighting the invisible current dragging them toward the nebula. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the pull stopped. Outside the window, they saw it, a planet hidden in the golden storm, half covered in glowing mist, half in eternal night. Its surface sparkled like crystal seas, dotted with strange floating islands. Mira whispered, "So this is where the stars sleep," repeating the message they had heard. Kai smiled nervously. "Beautiful and terrifying," he said under his breath. They descended slowly, passing through the soft haze that surrounded the planet. Sensors struggled to read the atmosphere. Everything seemed alive. Particles of light floated like dust, humming softly when the ship passed through. Lyra gasped from the engineering bay, "Captain, these particles match Luma's energy signature." Mira nodded slowly. "Then we're close," she said, her tone both firm and gentle. When the ship landed, the surface glowed under their feet like glass. The air was thin but breathable, filled with faint blue mist. The ground hummed with soft vibration. As though it recognized their presence, Mira stepped forward. Scanning the area with her wrist device, the readings were off the charts. Pure energy, flowing through the soil like water as they walked. They saw carvings on the rocks, small figures with wings, hands raised to the sky. Each carving glowed faintly when touched, showing scenes of light fighting shadow. It was not a warning, but a memory, a story of Luma and her people. Mira traced her fingers along the glowing shapes. "She was real," she whispered. Lyra added softly. "And she lived here." Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath them. From the mist, beams of blue light rose high into the air. The carvings began to move, rearranging into new symbols. The ship's sensors blared. The signal had changed again, this time forming words in human language. "The secret is not in finding me," it said, "but in remembering why I was lost." The message repeated once, then faded, leaving only silence and soft starlight. Mira looked around at her crew, her voice steady but full of awe. She's trying to tell us something, she said. Something bigger than herself, Kai whispered. Captain, what if this planet isn't where she lived? But where she died, Mira didn't answer. She simply looked up at the golden sky. There, above the mist, a small shimmer appeared, the faint outline of a tiny winged figure, watching, waiting, and glowing softly in the dark. The crew stood frozen, hearts pounding, unable to speak. The mystery had only deepened, and the real secret of the alien mini-girl was still waiting to be revealed. The planet was quiet. Too quiet. The mist swirled softly around the crew as if whispering forgotten words. Captain Mira Solon looked at the strange golden sky, her heart heavy with wonder and fear. Every breath she took felt like breathing light instead of air. She had explored countless worlds, but none felt this alive, this sacred around her. The rest of the crew scanned the area with cautious curiosity. Lieutenant Kai kept adjusting his wrist device, shaking his head in disbelief. Captain, this planet's energy readings are impossible. It's not just alive. It's aware, he said. Mira nodded slowly, eyes locked on the luminous mountains in the distance. Then we'll treat it with respect, she replied softly. Lyra, the young engineer, knelt by a crystal embedded in the ground. When she touched it, the surface rippled like water and released a faint light. Inside the crystal, tiny shapes moved, not random patterns but memories, images of small glowing beings with wings of light, dancing above silver rivers. Lyra gasped, Captain, look, it's them. It's Luma's people, the crew gathered, staring at the moving images inside the crystal. They saw cities made of light, towers floating like petals in the air, and at the center stood Luma herself, tiny, radiant, her wings unfolding like sunrise. She looked peaceful, smiling, surrounded by her kind. But then the light darkened, the images shifted, and the scene changed. A shadow spread across the city like a storm. Black ships appeared above the skies, firing beams that tore through the crystal towers. The ground cracked open and the sky turned crimson. The glowing beings fled, their wings dimming one by one. Luma stood alone, her hands raised as a wave of darkness approached. The crystal dimmed, returning to stillness. The crew said nothing, their faces pale with shock. Mira's voice broke the silence. This isn't just a recording, it's a memory of their fall, Kai whispered. Then this planet is their grave. And for the first time, even the wind stopped moving as they continued walking. They noticed more crystals buried beneath the glowing soil. Each one hummed softly when they passed, as if recognizing their presence. Mira felt a strange warmth in her chest, the same rhythm as the signal that led them here. She realized the planet wasn't dead, it was remembering. Every rock, every light particle was part of a living memory. The crew reached the edge of a vast canyon. Across it stood an enormous arch made of shining metal and stone. Symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly with golden fire. At the center of the arch, a swirling orb of blue light hovered silently. Kai scanned it with his wrist pad. Captain, this is generating the signal. It's the heart of the planet. Mira stepped forward, her reflection flickering in the blue glow. It's beautiful, she whispered. And dangerous, Lyra frowned. Captain, should we approach it? Mira hesitated, then nodded. Slowly, no sudden movements. They walked closer, the light pulsing like a heartbeat. When they reached the arch, the air trembled around them. A faint voice echoed through the wind, soft and childlike. You should not have come, it said. Lyra froze. That voice. It's Luma, she whispered. The crew looked around, but no one was there, only the shimmering light. Mira stepped forward. We followed your call, she said firmly. We mean no harm. The light shimmered, and the voice replied, I did not call you. The world did. Confusion rippled through the group. Kai frowned. Then who sent the signal? The voice grew softer. The planet remembers what I was, but it cannot forget what I became. Suddenly the ground shook violently, and the sky turned dark. The blue orb flared, and black smoke rose from the canyon below. Shapes formed within it. Tall, twisted figures made of shadow and flame. Lyra screamed. Captain, they're coming from the core, Mira shouted. Everyone back to the ship now. But before they could move, the arch exploded with light. The shadows froze, trapped in a web of glowing threads. Luma's voice filled the air again, louder now. Do not let the light sleep again. The glowing threads twisted, forming a faint image. Luma herself, small and fragile, standing inside the orb. Her silver eyes met Mira's across the light. "Who are you?" Mira whispered. Her voice trembling, Luma tilted her head slightly. "A memory, a warning, a secret." Her image flickered like flame, fading in and out. "The world remembers my sorrow," she said, "but it hides my truth." The ground pulsed with energy, the canyon echoing with low thunder. Before Mira could ask more, Luma's image vanished into the orb. The light dimmed, leaving only silence and faint golden dust falling through the air. The crew stood frozen, their hearts pounding. They had found Luma's world, but not her secret. Not yet, and somewhere deep below the surface, a new heartbeat began to stir, faint but growing stronger with each passing moment. Dark clouds swirled above the canyon, swallowing the last of the golden light. Captain Mira Sullen stood frozen before the silent arch. Her crew gathered close behind. The air grew heavy, charged with strange electricity that made every breath tremble. The glowing orb that once shimmered peacefully now flickered with uneven light. It was as if the planet itself had taken a deep breath and held it. Lyra's scanner beeped rapidly, flashing crimson warnings across her wrist screen. "Captain," she said nervously, "energy levels are unstable. Something is building underground." Mira turned sharply. "Everyone fall back toward the ridge, move." The ground beneath their boots vibrated, sending tiny ripples through the glowing soil. From deep below, a low hum began to rise, steady and rhythmic like a pulse returning to life. Kai looked over the canyon edge and froze. "Captain," he whispered. "You need to see this." Mira stepped beside him, her eyes widening. Below them, the canyon walls were glowing, not with light but with movement. Thousands of dark shapes crawled from the depths. Like shadows climbing toward the surface, they weren't alive in the normal sense. Their forms shifted constantly, smoke, ash, and fractured light. Each one moved as though made from memories. Mira could feel their presence inside her mind, cold and searching. "They're not creatures," she whispered. "They're echoes." Lyra backed away, clutching her scanner tight. "They're reacting to the orb, Captain, like moths to a flame." The blue orb at the arch's center pulsed faster. With every flash, the shadows grew stronger, taking clearer form, long limbs, hollow faces. It was like watching nightmares crawl out of forgotten dreams. Suddenly, a voice cut through the chaos, soft, but filled with command. "Leave this place," it said. Echoing through the canyon, it was Luma's voice again. Calm but distant, Mira looked around. "Luma, if you can hear me, we came to help," the voice replied. "Help brings danger. Danger brings awakening." A blast of wind roared through the canyon. Throwing dust into the air, the shadows leaped upward, clawing toward the ridge where the crew stood. Mira drew her pulse blaster, firing bursts of energy into the dark. Each shot scattered the creatures like smoke, but more appeared instantly. Lyra screamed as one shape lunged toward her, its form flickering like broken glass. Before it could reach her, the orb flared with blinding light. The creature froze mid-air, its body melting into sparks of silver dust. Mira shielded her eyes, shouting, "Luma, are you doing this?" The light pulsed once more, and a faint image appeared inside the orb. Luma's small silhouette. Her expression was sad, her wings faint and dim. "You woke them," she said softly. "They were memories of my people, lost in sorrow." Mira stepped closer, shouting over the noise, "We didn't mean to. We followed your signal." Luma's image flickered. "The world called you, not me." Her voice trembled. "It wanted someone to remember, but remembering has a price." As she spoke, cracks formed across the orb's surface, glowing brighter with every second. Kai yelled, "Captain!" "The energy field is collapsing." Mira turned. "Fall back to the ship. Move now." The crew sprinted across the glowing ridge as the ground began to split apart. Flames of blue and black erupted from the canyon, twisting together in violent waves. The shadows screamed, a sound that wasn't sound but pure emotion. Grief turned into storm, just as they reached the edge of the valley. The arch exploded. The shockwave threw them to the ground, their helmets cracking against the crystal soil. Mira rolled onto her side, breathless, watching as the canyon filled with a swirling vortex of light and darkness. At its center floated Luma's fading image, arms raised as if holding back the storm. Her voice echoed through the wind. "You must find the heart before they do," Lyra coughed, eyes wide. "The heart, what does she mean?" Mira stood, helping her to her feet. "I don't know, but it sounds important." The vortex began to shrink, collapsing inward until only silence remained. The sky returned to its golden hue, But the air felt heavier, as if the planet had aged. Kai checked his readings. "Captain, the signal's gone." Mira frowned. "No, not gone," she said softly. "Moved." She turned toward the horizon. Where a single beam of light now pierced the clouds, it pulsed faintly. Steady, rhythmic, calling them forward. She took a deep breath. "That's where we go next," Lyra whispered. "And if the shadows follow," Mira glanced at her with a small, brave smile, "then we remind them what light means." The crew gathered their gear and began the long walk toward the distant beam. Behind them the canyon was still, but deep below the surface. The shadows stirred again. They whispered in a language no human could hear, ancient and bitter, for the forgotten world had awakened, and its secrets were no longer sleeping, and somewhere within the light, the truth about the alien mini-girl waited to be found. Soft golden mist drifted across the crater. The storm had ended, the shadows had vanished, and peace hung heavy in the air. The great crystal sphere in the heart of the light now glowed gently, calm but alive. Lyra stood at its edge, her hands trembling as she stared into its depths. Inside she saw movement, not chaotic, but graceful, as if the light itself was breathing. Kai knelt beside her, his voice low and awed. "She's still in there," he whispered. Lyra nodded, unable to look away. Through the rippling glow, they could see a faint shape floating in the center. It was small, luminous, and familiar. A figure with tiny wings, glowing silver blue. The sight made Lyra's eyes fill with tears. "She's changed," she said softly. "It's not just Luma anymore," Kai nodded. "And not just Captain Mira." The being inside the heart opened her eyes slowly. For a moment, the whole planet seemed to hold its breath. The air shimmered with light as her voice filled the space around them. "I am here," she said softly, her tone calm yet powerful. Her wings unfolded, sending ripples of silver light across the crater. Lyra stepped back, her heart racing. "Captain," she whispered. The glowing figure tilted her head, smiling faintly. "Yes." "And no," Kai frowned, his voice shaking. "Who are you?" The being floated closer to the edge of the sphere, her light reflecting in their eyes. "I am the bridge," she said. "Between the memory and the moment, between what was and what must be." Her eyes shimmered with both human warmth and alien mystery. "The heart chose to awaken, and it chose me," Lyra tried to understand. Her voice trembling. "Are you?" "Both of them." The figure nodded gently. "Two lights made one. Mira's courage and Luma's hope." Her voice carried a strange peace that touched everything around her. "I remember her pain," she whispered, "and her promise. To protect the stars from forgetting." As she spoke, beams of light rose from the ground like roots reaching toward the sky. The planet responded to her awakening. The soil glowed brighter, the air filled with tiny floating sparks. Across the horizon, old ruins began to shine with renewed energy. It was as if the world had waited centuries for this moment. For her return, Lyra whispered. "She's healing it," awe in every word. But as the light spread, a faint rumble echoed through the distance. Kai turned sharply, eyes narrowing. That sound again. From the far side of the valley, the air shimmered and cracked. Dark shapes flickered in the sky. The remnants of the shadow echoes, weakened but still drawn to the heart's power. The guardian, half Mira, half Luma, turned toward the darkness. Her wings flared, glowing brighter. "They will never stop," she said quietly. "Darkness always follows light." Lyra's voice broke. "Then we'll help you, like Captain Mira would." The guardian smiled faintly. "No, like humans always do, and by remembering." She raised her hand, and the light from the heart surged upward. Golden streams connected to the beacons orbiting the planet. Each one reactivated, pulsing with life and warmth. In seconds, the entire sky lit up, a web of light spanning the horizon. The shadows froze, unable to move closer, trapped in the brilliance. Then the guardian's voice filled the air again, stronger this time. "Light is not the absence of darkness," she said. "It's the memory of warmth even in the cold." Her words rippled through the planet, through the air, through the minds of every living being who could hear. For a brief moment, time seemed to slow. Even the shadows stopped resisting, fading into silver mist that dissolved peacefully into the wind. Lyra fell to her knees, overwhelmed by what she saw. The planet that once wept now sang again. Every crystal, every grain of sand, every breath of wind glowed with harmony. Kai whispered, "She's become something greater than both of them." Lyra smiled through tears. She's become balance. The Guardian floated higher. Her light softening, she looked down at her two friends, her voice warm and calm. The heart is alive again, she said, and it will watch over all worlds that remember. Her wings opened wide, shining like dawn breaking through endless night. Then she whispered softly, "You must leave now. The light will guide you home." Before they could answer, a wave of energy lifted them gently. The next thing they knew, they were standing aboard the Horizon Star. The ship hummed with new power, every system glowing with Luma's light outside the window. The once hidden planet now shimmered like a golden star, and from its surface a beam of light reached out, stretching across the cosmos. Lyra placed her hand on the glass, whispering, "She's part of the universe now." Kai nodded, his voice soft. "No, she is the universe." And far away, in the silence between the stars, a gentle whisper returned to them. "Remember," it said, carried by starlight and memory alike. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy felt alive again. The stars shone brighter than ever across the silent void. For weeks, the beam from the golden planet had spread through space like a heartbeat. Every satellite, every beacon, every colony receiver glowed softly with the same rhythm. People on distant worlds paused to watch the strange light sweep across their skies. It carried warmth, peace, and a whisper that no machine could explain. On board the Horizon Star, Lyra sat at the window, her eyes filled with wonder. "The whole galaxy can see it," she murmured, her voice soft with awe. Kai leaned against the console beside her, smiling faintly. She did it. They both knew the light was more than energy, and it was memory. It was the voice of their captain, of Luma, of something far greater than either. Messages began flooding in from neighboring systems. Explorers reported seeing small orbs of silver drifting between planets. Farmers said their crops glowed faintly at night, healed by unseen hands. Children in dome cities claimed to dream of a tiny winged figure smiling at them. Everywhere the same words echoed. The light has returned. On Earth, the Galactic Council called for an emergency broadcast. Leaders from dozens of species gathered under the Great Hall's glass dome. They stared at the massive hologram displaying the golden beam that linked the stars. Some called it a miracle, some called it a weapon, and others called it hope. But when the signal aligned perfectly with the old coordinates of Luma's last message, silence filled the room. Dr. Evelyn Cross, now head of the Scientific Alliance, stood before the council. Her gray hair shimmered under the holographic glow as she spoke softly. "The light you see is not an attack, it's a gift," she said. "A reminder that we are not alone." Her words spread across every communication channel in the galaxy. Billions listened as she told the story of the alien mini-girl. Meanwhile, far from the noise of politics, a small research station orbited a forgotten moon. Inside it, a technician noticed a faint signal hidden within the returning light. When decoded, it revealed a voice, familiar, melodic, eternal. "I am not gone," it said. "I am the song between worlds," the message repeated. Filling the room with soft radiance back aboard the Horizon Star, the crew gathered around the central display. The same message pulsed through their ship, weaving through the circuits like living code. Lyra touched the glowing panel and whispered, "Captain Mira." "Luma, can you hear us?" The ship's lights brightened, and for a moment the air shimmered with tiny specks of silver. A faint figure appeared, glowing faintly, her wings unfolding like dawn. It was the Guardian, smaller, gentler, smiling. Her voice echoed softly, "I am the light you carry now." Lyra felt tears fill her eyes. "You're still watching over us," she said. The Guardian nodded. "Always. Because every being that remembers becomes a spark." Her form wavered, fading into starlight, leaving the ship bathed in warmth across the galaxy. Something extraordinary began to happen. Every starship that carried the signal began linking with others. A network of harmony formed, light joining light, world joining world. It was no longer about one girl or one legend. It had become a living connection between all who believed. Kai smiled, looking out the viewport. She turned the galaxy into her family. Lyra nodded, her voice trembling. "She turned us into her wings." From that moment, the old wars began to fade. Armies laid down their weapons, choosing to listen instead of fight. For the first time in centuries, peace felt real, not forced. Months later, a new fleet was launched, and not for conquest, but for exploration. They called it the Starborn Alliance. Its symbol, a single feather of light. Engraved beneath it were the words, "Remember the mini-girl." Every ship carried part of the heart's energy, a piece of the same glow that saved the world, and every captain carried the same oath, to protect the light wherever darkness rose. On a quiet night, as the horizon star drifted through the glowing nebula, Lyra closed her eyes and whispered into the stillness, "We remember." Outside, the stars shimmered brighter, forming the faint shape of a winged figure in the sky. The legend of the alien mini-girl had become eternal, and somewhere beyond sight the Guardian smiled, her light spreading endlessly through time. The galaxy was quiet, but it was no longer empty. Every world, every colony, every outpost now glowed faintly under a sky that remembered. The light of Luma, the alien mini-girl, had become more than legend. It had become life itself, even in the coldest corners of space. Her touch could be seen in the shimmer of the stars. No one looked at the night the same way again on Earth. Children learned her name before they learned their own constellations. Schools spoke of the Luma cycle, the day when all beacons aligned and glowed together. It was celebrated as the daylight chose humanity again. Monuments were built, not of stone or metal, but of crystal that pulsed softly with golden light, each one engraved with her final words. Remember. Captain Mira Solin's name had also passed into history. Her bravery became a story told beside Luma's. Two lives merged into one eternal myth. The humans called them the Twin Lights and believed that together they watched over the stars. Even the old enemies and the shadow races no longer fought. Instead, they too began to rebuild under the glow of the heart's endless energy. Far across the galaxy, a new age had begun, the era of radiance. Ships once made for war were now designed for exploration. The fleets of the Starborn Alliance traveled through regions untouched by life. Their hulls bore the symbol of a single feather of light, and every captain began their journey with the same quiet promise, "For the light that lives among the stars." Stories grew. They said that if a traveler was lost and called out to the dark, a soft silver glow would appear to guide them. They said that sometimes, in moments of great danger, a tiny voice could be heard saying, "Remember." And some swore they had seen her, a small glowing girl with wings of starlight, smiling before vanishing into the cosmos. To some it was myth, to others faith, but to the brave it was real. At the central hub of the Alliance, the great archive known as the Lumarium was created. It floated in orbit above a peaceful moon, surrounded by rings of pure light. Inside it, holograms played the memories of the old wars, the fall of Luma's world, and the rebirth of the heart. Visitors came from every species to see it. They stood in silence as her story unfolded, a story of courage, loss and rebirth. Dr. Evelyn Cross, now very old, sat within the Lumarium's observation deck one final time. Her eyes were dim, but they still reflected the same light that filled the stars. She whispered softly, "You saved them all." "Little one," outside, the beacons pulsed in response as if answering her, and somewhere in the rhythm of those lights, she heard a faint echo and a familiar voice saying, "You remembered." The Alliance continued to grow, not through conquest but through unity. Worlds once divided by fear now shared their knowledge and energy. New species joined the network of light, each adding their own rhythm to the galactic pulse. Trade routes became light routes. Communication became song. It was said that the galaxy itself had learned to breathe in harmony. Centuries passed, but the legend of Luma never dimmed. Her name became the symbol of hope that every civilization carried. Even in times when the light flickered, people would gather beneath the stars and whisper her name. Children placed small lanterns on their windows, glowing softly to call her spirit home, and when they did, the sky always seemed to glow a little brighter. One quiet evening on the edge of the known universe, a young explorer named Eris piloted a ship through uncharted space. He was part of the new generation, raised on Luma's story, driven by her message. As his ship drifted near a strange nebula, his sensors detected a faint signal. It was soft, ancient, and steady. Pulsing like a heartbeat, he smiled, whispering, "Could it be?" He followed the sound through the glowing mist until his ship reached the heart of the nebula. There, floating among the colors of dawn and dusk, was a small crystal sphere. Inside it shimmered a tiny figure, wings folded, eyes closed, sleeping peacefully. It looked just like her. The same Luma they had all heard of. Eris's breath caught as the sphere glowed, and a voice whispered through his cabin, "Traveler, it said softly. The light is not lost. It only waits to be found. And then, before his eyes, the sphere dissolved into starlight. The glow wrapped around his ship, spreading through every circuit, every wire, every heartbeat. Eris felt warmth fill him, not heat, but purpose, he whispered. You're still guiding us, aren't you? And the stars shimmered in answer. The galaxy continued to spin, brighter than ever. The light of one small being had become the foundation of peace among millions. And though ages passed, no one forgot her story because somewhere, in every ship, every home, every dream, the same soft voice still whispered, remember, and the light will always find you.